Geek to me radio, da 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 da. Domo arigato, geek to me radio, da 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 da.
Welcome, geeks and nerds, girls and boys, to a brand new episode of Geek to Me Radio number 306. Today we'll be doing our FanExpo St. Louis wrap-up. We've got interviews with Rodger Bumpass, the voice of Squidward, Pat Broderick, an amazing artist for DC and Marvel, and of course, the great voice actor Billy West. All that and more, stand by.
We're talking TV, comics and movies, and video games. And if you don't know Star Trek from Star Wars, we'll try to explain. There are 12 doctors for Hogwarts houses, one ring rules them all. To be the greatest Pokemon master, you must catch them all. You must catch them all. Try to catch them all. Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all.
And for those of you who may be finding us for the very first time, hello to you. This is Geek to Me Radio. I'm your host, James Enstall. Each week, we try to bring you a brand new show covering the world of pop culture, be it TV, movies, comic books, video games, interviews with people in those fields. For my longtime listeners, hello to you, and thank you very much for tuning in to this 306th episode of our show. This is our FanExpo St. Louis edition wrap-up show. We had a great time with FanExpo coming through, kind of, I guess, if you want to say, supplanting Wizard World, which has come through St. Louis since 2013. FanExpo has taken over the St. Louis area for them, and they did a great job, brought a lot of great guests, a lot of amazing talent. Got to have some stuff signed by Kevin Smith. My friends at the St. Louis Celestial Intervention Agency asked me to help them host some panels. We talked some Doctor Who, some Boba Fett, a lot of great panels that went on. Of course, the Smallville Nights with Michael Rosenbaum and Tom Welling was an event that there was also a ticketed event for FanExpo St. Louis. If you're listening right now and you've not been to a FanExpo event, St. Louis here was great. I've been to FanExpo Dallas. They've got them all over the country, so make sure you check out FanExpo if you're wanting to get your pop culture on in person. It's a great time. They always put on a great event. I'm very glad to have a Comic-Con back here in St. Louis. Three great guests, as I mentioned in the very beginning, and we're going to start with Rodger Bumpass. We're at FanExpo St. Louis with Rodger Bumpass, the voice of Squidward, among many others. How are you?
I am just fine, among others.
I got to ask you, talk to me about Disco Beaver from outer space.
That goes way back. When I left the wilds of Arkansas for New York City, got involved with National Lampoon. And right before Animal House came out, and we did this video called Disco Beavers from Outer Space. It was perhaps the weirdest thing I had ever done to date.
And that, because I always ask, because that's one of your first things entered on IMDb, and some people say, I didn't do that. So this is actually something you did, and
Absolutely.
Was it an enjoyable experience?
Absolutely. We all took turns being the Disco Beaver, and then going through the streets of New York City and scaring people. And there was some nudity involved, but don't tell anybody about that. It wasn't mine.
Was there more disco than there was outer space stuff? Was there a dance audition?
There was not. Thank goodness there was no dance audition for me.
Good. And then we talked a little bit before we started rolling about your start in radio, and you kind of got into the acting thing more. Was voice kind of what you thought you might be wanting to do with acting, or how did the voice work start and take off from there?
It all started in puberty. I had a very high voice as a child, and then when it dropped like the mumps, and I had this sound that we all call, announcer kind of sound. So I said, and I won an announcing contest at Arkansas State University in Jonesboro, and that's what prompted me to go there and major in radio and TV. But I got more interested in acting, and so I said, I'll keep the announce stuff on my tool belt and go to New York City and pursue my future. And it worked out okay.
Mostly New York work for you when you started? Did you go bi-coastal, or mostly in New York?
It was in New York. I went to New York just to get to Los Angeles, because in New York you didn't have to have an agent.
Oh.
And I had friends from ASU that went there before me, and they said, you ought to come up and try it. So I did. Fortunately, after a couple of months, I got a job. Most people, spend 2 or 3 months before they get a job.
And the voice, obviously, of Squidward, this has been a long-running cartoon series. You obviously get a lot of questions about Squidward. What's the most awkward question someone's ever asked you about voicing Squidward or SpongeBob?
Well, it wasn't an awkward question. It was at a Comic-Con. They had a tattoo kiosk there, and some guy had the characters done on his back, and he wanted me to sign it, and then he would go get it inked in. And it was the most disgusting back you'd ever want to see in your life, with the hairs and the oil and the moles and stuff, and I just... My arms weren't long enough to get him at a distance there.
He didn't at least have the courtesy to shave the area?
He did not.
Oh, my gosh.
He did not.
So I guess you probably tossed that Sharpie away after that.
Okay, just a word to the wise. Anybody that wants me to do a tattoo, don't.
Right. Probably for the best. And with you've gotten to work with a lot of different voice actors over the years. Who has been someone who you feel like you instantly clicked with, whether a SpongeBob actor or some other actor on another project, where you kind of immediately like, hey, we're the same spirit?
I don't get starstruck very often, but Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy were done by Ernest Borgnine and Tim Conway. And I did not realize that I was accidentally channeling Tim's character in some of my stage work, this kind of a sad kind of character. And then when he did, we had one little scene where we went back and forth with and that was the height of my comedy experience, to actually work with Tim Conway that way, and Ernest Borgnine too. Gosh, I was in the same scene with him in Escape from New York.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I always think of him from the Poseidon Adventure. It's one of my favorite movies.
I think McHale's Navy, when both of them were together. You know,
right.
That's who he really was. This jovial, smiling, fun guy. I just loved him.
And the voice acting, everyone says you need to be a good actor to really be a good voice actor. So obviously your theater study, everything could only serve you doing voice now and everything else you do.
Yeah, that's what I tell young people that say, my friends tell me I have a good voice, I should get into voice acting. And I always say, how's your acting? Everyone can do the broad strokes. You know, you got to have some acting creativity. So if those few people that are thinking about doing it, that's the thing to focus on.
And being a DC Comics villain, Dr. Light on Teen Titans.
Dr. Light.
Right there.
The original Dr. Light. No one can resist the power of Dr. Light.
When you go into an established character who's got a comic book history like some of the ones you've done, do you kind of just take the director's advice for what your voice is? Or do you come in with, like, this is what he should sound like based on the pictures and the storyboards? Or do you kind of meet in the middle somewhere?
Every iteration is going to be different. I remember in the Spider-Man ride at Universal Studios in Florida, I am Dr. Octopus. And we just did almost a voice like that for that. But when you see it in the movies, the different actors have totally different sounds. So every time you do see a new production of a DC thing, it's usually a different voice, different take on it.
And is there one, obviously you've got affinity for Squidward, but is there a voice that you've done that you're like kind of feel like it's yours, you're more protective of if you had to say someone other than Squidward?
Well, I think Squidward is that voice because having done it for 22 years, I've made it my own. It usually started out very monolithic, monotone, blah, 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 blah. And then as you go on, you're required to do different things. And so you spread your wings. And I got to scream. I got to be sarcastic. I got to be apoplectic, So it's more of a spread out character than any other characters. Everything else is one note. Professor Membrane from Invader Zim. Not now, son. I'm making toast. Very similar to Dr. Light.
And with this being something you've done now for 22 years, it seems like you've got such a joy. You've obviously meeting a lot of fans here at FanExpo. Is it something you ever kind of like, I'm ready to move on from Squidward, or are you still just, no, I would do this for the rest of my life if I could?
I want to continue doing this so that we last a little bit longer than the pyramids.
Okay. That's a long stretch.
And I've been doing animation since just after the Civil War. And this is, as they say in Star Trek, this is my first best destiny. This one character is the one that it, quote, made my name. But it's the one that people know about me, and it's the one that is closest to my heart. I never want to stop doing it.
And if we talk to voice actors about COVID, adjusting to it, where voice actors didn't see a huge drop-off in work because you guys could adapt quickly and do it from home, did you find that to be an easy adaptation for you? Or are you kind of like, yeah, I can do this from my house? Or did you kind of miss that, seeing the person across the booth and working with them?
We all miss each other because now we're just seeing each other as Zoom thumbnails. But it was very opportune for me when COVID hit and we had to do things from home. I had just put in a voice booth in my garage. So that worked out very well for me. I have an 8-second commute.
That's not bad.
And there's always one car in my way. Won't move.
And my last question, I'm a huge Heart to Heart fan. My dad and I used to watch that when I was growing up. You've been on the original series, and then you got to play a different character when you came back for the movie. Working with that cast, I mean, I love Robert Wagner and Stephanie Powers and everything. What was it like working on Heart to Heart?
They were both very, very nice to me. Robert was very, very, very kind, very supportive. And what was Max?
I can picture him.
I'm
yes,
sorry.
The actor, no.
Sorry, but he was very, very nice also. So, and the director that hired me for all that was a dear friend. He was primarily responsible for my entire film resume, but working with them, and they still play it ever so often. I always like seeing me at about 23 years old.
And obviously Robert and Stephanie were great. I hear Freeway was a diva, the little dog.
Yeah,
such a diva.
I wasn't in any scenes with that, but I heard it was a good thing I wasn't.
This has been fantastic. Rodger Bumpass, I appreciate your being here. Thanks so much for your time today.
All right, and watch KAIT, Channel 8 in Jonesboro. I'm not there anymore, but watch it anyway.
We'll pause right there, take a quick commercial break, come right back. Continuing on, you're listening to Geek to Me Radio. Please stand by.
What's up, guys? This is Jeremy Shada, voice of Finn from Adventure Time or Land on Voltron, and you're listening to Geek to Me Radio.
Welcome back. Geek to Me Radio brought to you by our premier sponsor. The show literally would not be on the air still without their support, and that is, of course, the Greater St. Charles Convention and Visitors Bureau, the City of St. Charles, the website, which I want you to go and visit. As soon as you're done listening to this, make a note, put it in your queue, bookmark it on an open tab. DiscoverStCharles.com. That's DiscoverStCharles.com. A great time. There's never a bad time to visit, but spring is always nice. All the plants are coming in, the trees are blooming. We just went down there this past weekend. They had an Irish Heritage Festival going on. All these vendors and booths set up. They had you could buy sporans and Celtic garb and pins and handcrafted stuff. They had obviously a Guinness beer tent was down there. They had some crafting and things like that. The big kid zone, bouncy houses, and all that kind of fun stuff. Live music, which was great. We were down there for I want to say 3 or 4 hours this past weekend, Memorial Day weekend. But if you missed out on that, no problem. There's always something going on in St. Charles. Check out the website, DiscoverStCharles.com, to see what is happening, what their upcoming events might be. And of course, if you're a Halloween fan, I know it's spring. I just got done saying it's spring, but I always look forward to fall. And in the fall, I look forward to spring. But we've got Legends and Lanterns coming up, which is a great time for the Halloween season. That'll probably be the next big festival that goes on down there. So make sure you come visit for that. If you're in the greater St. Louis, St. Charles area, or if you're from out of town and want to visit, DiscoverStCharles.com has something for everyone. Once again, plan your trip on the website. Start there. See all the cool things we're to see and do. DiscoverStCharles.com for an historically good time. This is our FanExpo St. Louis edition, kind of covering all the cool stuff that was going on at FanExpo. A 3-day-long event, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I was down there all 3 days. Helped co-host some panels, saw a lot of cool people, a lot of cosplay that was going on, a lot of fun to be had, just people with smiles all over their face. I think it's, that post-pandemic, people are glad to be out of the house, but they had such an amazing lineup of guests, again, from pop culture, voice actors, comic artists, comic writers. They had vendors, they had celebrities like Kevin Smith, William Shatner were there, Michael Rooker was there, a great lineup of talent, and we managed to talk to a couple of them. Pat Broderick, for my money, is one of the greatest comic book artists out there. His work, you'll recognize it on sight. His fantastic run on Firestorm. That's what I always think of him from, because I loved Firestorm comics growing up from DC and the Superpowers Firestorm figure and everything like that. Pat Broderick did a great run on Firestorm. Did a great run on Batman. He's got a lot of great things. Ragman, which was a great series in the early 90s, kind of a Batman Gotham adjacent type of title, but you'd recognize his work as soon as you see it. And we had the chance to sit down and talk with the great Pat Broderick. We're talking with legendary artist Pat Broderick. Such an incredible career. Your Micronauts run is why I think I first noticed. As a kid, you don't notice, art looks good, art looks bad, but you don't notice names until I'm a little older. And you got to work with the great Bill Mantlo on the Micronauts series. Yeah. Talk about a little bit about, because every artist is different. Your process for doing art, do you do you work with them collaboratively? Do you kind of get the words and then you kind of build it? Do they wait until they get your pictures and put the words in?
It depends on the writing style. If it's for a company and they have a specific style, like the Marvel method, the words are always added after the artwork was done. If it's full script, the words are there, panel numbers are there, but panel sizes and angles and stuff is up to the artist. And we're also able to add more panels as long as we let the writer know that we've taken this scene and you can divide the dialogue up into 2 panels and not just keep it in one, you know. So that's the method I do right now is with Mike Barron. He writes full scripts, so yeah.
Did you obviously work with so many different great writers, Marv Wolfman on your Batman run that you did for year 3. Do you have one that you felt more of a synchronicity with, like you were in a groove?
Probably my time with Doug Munch on Captain Marvel and our detective. We did a lot of work together, you know, over at DC also. Really enjoyed working with John Francis Moore on Doom. It was he had a refreshing take on it. He put a lot of energy into his stories. Right now with Mike Barron, I recently just worked with Peter Gillis for Shatter for First Comics, and he puts everything in his scripts. I mean, it is all there. It's visual, it's timed, it's very well written. And Mike Barron is also extremely talented, well written, very well written. So, you know, I'm fortunate. You know.
And again, the iconic artwork you've got on your table, obviously your Firestorm run's one of my favorites. The story, the character, the art, I've always been a kind of a fan of that particular book. A lot of the artists now, and you're doing it too, with a lot of they're putting their own titles out with Kickstarter or things like that, where you can work on your own stuff. Yeah. That's got to be very freeing for you, obviously, as an artist. But I've heard some people say they kind of miss the structure of working for one of the companies. Where do you land on that?
Well, I've worked for the companies for probably 40 years. I've been in the industry almost 50 now. Tell you the truth, I'm much more comfortable now. Kickstarter became a thing for unpublished artists to publish their books, and now it's become basically a area for the published artists to get books out there and to their fans too, without the control of a parent company overlooking your shoulder. I feel much more freedom now in my life. Because I'm no longer subjective to the control and whims of the company.
Sure.
You know, it's great working for them, but it's also hell. Okay. Yeah. Because once they have control of you, they've been known to put you into situations where they're in a bind. They need something done really quickly, and it doesn't matter that you're maybe behind schedule on the other stuff. You've got to do it, and they put a great deal of pressure, strong arm, to get you to do it, you know, and that's never good, you know. So.
And we've got a lot of independent artists at an event like this at FanExpo where a lot of these people started out doing Kickstarter. You've got that established where people know your work, people are fans of your work. That's got to obviously be a help when you decide to launch your own projects. So people are like, oh my gosh, Pat Broderick, I remember him from Alpha Flight or Batman, and people are like, I'm going to back your book. So that's obviously a big help. What advice would you give to some of these independent people starting out that didn't have the background at the big comic book companies that are doing all the self-funding? What would be a piece of advice you might offer?
Don't think of your Kickstarter run as the end of the potential distribution of that particular product, because you have the European market too.
Yeah.
You know, and you have the files, you have the ownership, you can get your stuff published. The Bronze Star that I'm working on with Mike Barron, I have a publisher very interested in it from Portugal. So and they like trades, they like large, and they also do floppies. So the way I look at this is it's kind of funny because I got royalties on foreign sales for like DC and Marvel, you know, which might amount to between $12 and maybe $1.50 per country in Europe.
Okay.
it's not going to be that way this time.
Right.
So
exactly.
Yeah. So the market's much bigger, and the potential for rewards is much greater. So I'm excited about this and that venue. And also, there's this thing out there, Comicsgate. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And literally every artist that's been retired from the working for the companies, whether it was elective or not, we're all Comicsgate.
Yeah.
I mean, Comicsgate started when the companies stopped giving us work.
Yeah.
So whatever political agenda people might like to try to tag to it, that's just individual personalities, but that's not Comicsgate.
Yeah.
So
it can mean different things to someone based on where they stand on it, obviously.
Yeah. If people judge the companies by what the administration's political stance was and knew about it, they wouldn't be so supportive of perhaps Marvel or DC.
Yeah.
So it's really unfair to judge it that way. But it's Mike said Comicsgate is very interested in Bronze Star. And I told him, I said, Mike, we're all Comicsgates now, quite literally. So we'll see. But it's a smaller market, but you get a bigger share of the pie for each sale. So,
sure.
Yeah.
And growing up, when you talk about superheroes, your origin story, did you always know you wanted to be an artist? Was it something you kind of got into a little bit later in your teens, or how did you decide art is what I want my career to be?
Let me see. It was probably about 63. I think the first issue of Marvel's X-Men came out, and I started copying Kirby's panels in there just for fun, just for entertainment, and saw that I could, and I've been drawing ever since. So, it has now become such a compulsion in your life that, and I believe every artist in here will tell you the truth, if you don't get to draw something, you're going to be cranky. You're going to be off,
right.
If you're not creating.
Feel that need.
Yeah. So, maybe it's the personal dopamines that the creativity does, But I know when I worked in advertising, I did much more administrative work than I did actual hands-on work. And I didn't like that much, But everything always circles back to this, Yeah.
And you've been, like I said, you've made such a career out of it. Just walking by, people recognize your work because it has a very distinct style. When you were growing up, or you mentioned X-Men '1, so you were a comic book kid. You were reading comic books growing up then.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was 1960s and then late 60s comic book geek. And we stored them in paper grocery bags because it's perfect size for a comic book, and had everything at one time or another,
So you don't have that X-Men '1 anymore?
No, my mother actually threw out my comic collection.
I hate to hear that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I took great pride in pointing out to her when #1 was sold
at an auction recently.
And it was like, hey, Mom, that was your retirement. That was my retirement. That was everyone's retirement, because I had all the early first issues of everything. Like Ditko's first 3 years of Spider-Man. Yeah. So, but she decided since I hadn't cleaned my room, she was going to clean it for me one day.
Well, see, little did she know she would not have as nice a retirement plan had she kept those.
Right. So, and then unfortunately it was the garbage pickup day. So I got home from school, my entire closet was nice and spick and span, and all my books were gone.
I hate to hear it.
Yeah.
And this, you're the first artist I've had a chance to interview since we lost both Neil Adams and George Perez. Obviously, their work influential in the comic book industry as well.
Yeah.
Did you get to, obviously you being an artist, they both are artists, but did you get to interact much with them during your time at either of the companies?
Yeah, with both of them. I knew knew Neil was working at Neil's studio when George first broke into comics, and his pages passed through the studios and whatnot. And of course, I knew George through many conventions. It was a tragic loss for the industry.
Yeah,
so
very much so.
Yeah.
But luckily, we still have Pat Broderick with us. So if you're at the convention, terrific con in Connecticut.
Yep.
Are you doing any others between now and July that people can, if they want to catch up with you?
I'm doing MegaCon next week, and I'm doing Dallas. I believe it's the week after that for Fanfare. And then I don't know if MegaCon falls before Heroes or after Heroes.
I have to look that up myself.
Yeah, so I'd have to get my calendar from my house.
So you're keeping busy, obviously, lots of travel.
Yeah.
Building up those Southwest reward points.
Yeah.
It's always great to see you at conventions. We'll catch up with you again at Terrific Con.
Thank you very much.
Pat Broderick, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
If you ever get a chance to see Pat Broderick or to get a commission from him, if you got one of those blank comic book covers, send him one of those. You can reach out to him through his website. We'll have a link to his website down at the bottom of the show notes here. If you're listening, just scroll down the page to the show notes, and you can send him a commission, pick it up, or he'll mail it to you if you want to pick him up at another convention. He's doing fan expos across the country, as he mentioned. You can always see him at one of those events. The great Pat Broderick, very pleased to be able to chat with him. We're going to take another quick commercial break, and we're going to come back and chat with legendary voice actor Billy West. All about Futurama and more. Stand by.
Hi, this is John Delancey, and you're listening to Geek to Me Radio.
Welcome back to the show, Geek to Me Radio, our online edition. Just remember that we do have our live version every Sunday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. You can tune in on Twitch or YouTube or Facebook. Just go to those sites, find Geek to Me Radio. Make sure you follow us on Facebook. Give us our page a like, and of course, please subscribe on YouTube and Twitch to us so you get a notification every time we go live. We've got some great guests coming up in June that I'm excited to share with you, and you can watch those shows live. You can also listen live at ktrs.com/stream, the big 550 KTRS broadcasting live in St. Louis on the terrestrial AM airwaves every Sunday night. Continuing on with our Fan Expo St. Louis edition, but before we get to this next guest, I want to make sure that you know about our official movie sponsor, and that, of course, is Marcus Theaters. MarcusTheaters.com is the website. You can go check out movie reviews, find the location of the Marcus Theaters or movie tavern closest to you. In the heat of summer, there's nothing I like better than getting into a nice, cold, air-conditioned movie theater, sitting there in the dark with your big tub of popcorn, your snow caps, a big fizzy soft drink, Diet Dr. Pepper usually in my case, and watching a great movie. Summer blockbuster season is upon us. A lot of great movies are coming out. The new Jurassic World, it looks like probably the final installment in this Chris Pratt trilogy, the Dallas Bryce Howard trilogy of movies. They're bringing back the originals from the original trilogy as well. We'll see Sam Neill and Laura Dern and Jeff Goldblum. If you want to get out and see one of these movies, like Jurassic World, any movie, do it in the best possible surroundings with great sound, great visuals. They're IMAX screens. If you haven't seen the new Tom Cruise Maverick movie, Top Gun Maverick, you want to check that out. Marcus Theaters is the place to do that on the IMAX screens there as well. Go to the website, marcustheaters.com. Find the location closest to you. Buy your tickets right there. The best movie-going experience in the galaxy, Marcus Theaters.com. Very proud to have them as the official movie sponsor here on Geek to Me Radio. Our final guest from Fan Expo St. Louis that we were pleased to go to here. It's great to have Comic Cons coming back through, and Fan Expo does them really well. Another indication of what type of talent they bring to their events. We got to chat briefly with the great Billy West. We're here at Fan Expo St. Louis talking to the legendary Billy West. You get legendary a lot, surely.
That's part of a longer drum roll. Legendary, handsome,
of course,
well hung.
As you can see, well, you can't see the well hung yet. He's not standing up.
Willing to go to pieces over nothing. I don't know.
Congratulations on Futurama coming back. That's huge. So many fans are excited about it. I'm sure you must be too.
I'm super excited because that was my favorite show of everything I ever did. Anything I ever did, that was it. Nothing came close. It was just the writing. The writers are so good. You know, I mean, there was stuff I didn't even understand. Like, hey, Fry, I heard beer makes you stupid. No, it doesn't. And I go to David, the director, I go, David Cohen, David, Noam doesn't? He goes, please read it as written. Okay. And I'll be back for the $900 fix-it fee. And of course, I see it on TV, and I went, ah! It was so beautifully stupid. And you know what? It was the best acting I ever did, because I didn't know what I was saying when I said it, and Fry didn't know what he was saying when he said it.
So it's perfect. It's in character and everything else.
Perfect.
Can't get better than that.
Yeah, no.
We talked right before we started this that the Goblin's animated. That you're working on Phil Lamar. You're playing Min-Max.
Yes.
That's got to be. Have you had an update? Because I talked to Phil briefly at Planet, but we didn't talk about the production. Do you know how things are coming along with that?
I don't know how far along they are. I know that they had what they call animatics and pencil tests, and adding tracks, and I just don't know how far along it is. It's like when something's being funded piecemeal, there's no date you can throw out there and say, okay, look for it in December, 2026 or whatever. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll just keep your ears and eyes open.
And you had a great relationship with Phil. Obviously, you worked with him on Futurama as well.
I love Phil.
So did he ask you and say, hey, this is a great part for you, or did he make you audition?
Yeah, no, he asked me if I would, try something, do something, and I just added what I thought might be appropriate, and he liked it, so that's how it goes.
And with Looney Tunes, I think, if I'm not mistaken, you're one of the few people outside Mel Blanc to voice both Elmer and Bugs. Am I correct?
Yeah, Mel did voice Elmer reluctantly for a very short time in the late 50s, early 60s. But he didn't want to do it. He preferred to create original voices. But that Elmer Fudd voice was a guy named Arthur Q. Bryan. And he was just like, you can find videos of him on YouTube from like the 30s and the 40s, and he was a screwball, that would just like, he'd do nursery rhymes and stuff, and now we had a widow wham. And it was just, it's so silly because it's him. I love all that periphery. But I listened carefully to what he did, and he was like one of those, he was a brain-dead hunter. Nothing funnier than that. And he would go from like being a 3-year-old, shh, be very, very quiet. I'm hunting wabbits. And then he'd go to 60. All right, wabbit, come out of there. Say your prayers. I'll blast you. And, you got me, Doc. Things are getting dark. Dark. Yeah.
So you had a lot of fun with those characters as well, it sounds like. I mean, voicing Looney Tunes in general, that's got to be...
Yeah, that was quite an assignment. Ivan Reitman hired me for Space Jam, and, I took it so seriously. I mean, I wanted to do the best job I could do. No one could be Mel Blanc, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, it's a high bar.
He wasn't just a collection of witty little voices. He was a hell of an actor. I mean, he could act on anything and give it total different lives and souls. And, there's never been any better than that.
And when you're doing these different voices, when you create some of these original characters, is it mostly the direction you're given, or do you kind of come in with an idea based on the look, how it should sound?
A bunch of people get together, and they worked real hard on developing these characters. And then I'm like the last stop on the bus. They come and go, what would you do? Oh, no pressure. I think long and hard before I open my mouth, because I want it to last for the ages. I don't want it to be like a throwaway or, so I thought I was very deliberate and in my choices, and it seemed to work for the characters. They kind of grew into each other, so...
And you worked on Justice League Unlimited. You played Skeets,
yes,
Booster Gold's companion. So
basically
it means
using the voice that I'm doing right now.
You get to obviously work with Andrea Romano.
Yes, and Bruce Timm.
Yeah, so two of the best in the business.
I said, what do you want, Bruce? And he goes, just be Billy. So I was like, okay, sir. I don't know how to be me.
So it's an easy job then, it sounds like.
But it was funny because everybody remembers it, and I don't, I just thought, well, who's going to go for that? But they did. I've
got a Justice League animated poster I'm going to bring back tomorrow to have you sign next to Booster Gold, because it's got the little Skeets figure next to it. So that's
cool.
And other stuff besides Futurama, is that pretty much what you've got working on right now? Anything other coming out that people can listen to?
Disenchantment is in production.
Okay.
Still doing that. That's Matt Groening's other show. And I'm still doing commercials. And so, yeah, it's been busy. But I've been doing these shows a lot, these Comic-Cons, because for a couple of years they folded.
Yeah.
Because of the pandemic. And I sat in my room for 2 years and wrote a book.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's an autobiography. So I don't know when that'll be out, but I decided to spill my guts, you know.
What's the title?
Working title is probably Voices from Life, Voices from Cartoons, something like that. But I'm working on artwork, getting artwork and photos and everything.
Nice, very cool.
Yeah.
So hopefully that'll be out maybe next year?
I'm hoping. You know, I'm gonna step on the gas. I wrote 22 chapters while we were in lockdown. So
very nice. 11 chapters a year for each of the pandemics. That's good. This has been a fantastic time until we got a line
Thank
for me,
you.
so I want to get out of your way. Billy West, thanks so much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. That's going to do it. My thanks, as always, to Rodger Bumpass, Pat Broderick, and Billy West. Before we let you go, make sure we tell you about our official comic book sponsor, BugsComicsAndGames.com. Go to the Facebook page and give that a like for them. They would appreciate that. Tim and Larry would be grateful. Bugs, Comics, and Games on Facebook. And, of course, if you're looking to get some back issues, if you're looking to kind of fill a couple of those holes you've got in your collection, maybe you're missing a couple issues here and there of Avengers, you haven't got the newest Amazing Spider-Man run, the new one that just came out from John Romita and Scott Hanna, you want to get your hands on some variant covers that you've been looking for, BugsComicsAndGames.com. If you're here locally, of course, you can go to their store on Bryan Road right there in O'Fallon off of either the Page Extension, Highway 6440, or, of course, off of Highway 70, easily reachable from either of those places. We always recommend shopping at local small businesses, and that's exactly what you'll get with Larry and Tim. They've got a great store, and they're buying collections, too. If you've got a collection you're looking to sell, you might want to swing by and let Larry or Tim take a look at it. If it's a large collection, you can't bring it to them. They'll come to you. They'll come take a look and see what you've got, and they'll give you the best price in the area for it. Of course, if you're not in the greater St. Louis, St. Charles area, again, the website, BugsComicsAndGames.com, you can grab some of those cool variants. They've got some of their case books and wall books up on there as well. And, of course, you can join the Avengers Club, get a discount on your weekly pull list. Who doesn't want to save money with the price of gas and really the price of everything going up here? Save money where you can. Save money on your comic book sales, the new stuff you want to buy, your back issues and things like that. BugsComicsAndGames.com. Very proud to have them as our official comic book sponsor here on the show. My thanks, as always, to Joey V for making the show sound as good as it does. The show wouldn't be still going on without him. My thanks to you all for listening. Make sure you give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram at Geek to Me Radio. Like the Facebook page, facebook.com/Geek to Me Radio. And, of course, if you would, follow us on Twitch and YouTube. Subscribe there so you never miss when we go live on Sunday nights with our guests. Until then, my friends.
It's not in the way you watch a zombie. It's not in the way you watch The Flash. It's not in the way you love Scotty Young art. It's not in the way you play Mario Kart. It's not in the way you look when you make Game of Thrones references. That's a show. This is Geek to Me Radio. That's a show. This is Geek to Me Radio.
Thank you, Pineapple Under the Sea. Good night.
Hey kids, are your parents about to buy you a shiny new toy from Amazon?
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Well, don't be selfish. Share some of that money with us. Before going on Amazon, make sure to type in bit.ly/geek2me in the web browser. It will look just like Amazon.com, except it'll say Referral Geek to Me Radio up top. And then when you check out, a tiny percentage will go to support the show without costing you 1 cent more. So before your parents get you that gizmo, gadget, or widget, make sure they type in bit.ly/geek2me in the web browser.
Bit bit.ly/geek to me. bit.ly/geek to me.